Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live training. So I hope this training will help a lot of you. If you are interested in dispatching, if you are interested in being a carrier, maybe interested in buying trucks, maybe you don't know the process, maybe you have questions about. I think in general, when it comes to like starting trucking business, any question you might have. And about a month ago, we decided to kind of change the way we deliver the content, meaning we said, listen, we came to an agreement saying that, hey, instead of me teaching based on a topic, let's say, or share ideas or anything like that, meaning in trucking, why don't we get questions from the subscribers or from the viewers, any questions you guys might have, and I will be taking those questions. Basically, you structuring the live, session. Hey, I have this question for you. I have, this question and second question. Maybe you're interested in trucking. Maybe you're interested in becoming a, broker. Well, I don't know. Any type of questions you might have, meaning think about load boards. Well, I also have, my load board, logged in and available to you if you have like specific question about, hey, I want to look up this, point A to point B, or I want to build a lane based on whatever. So I'm open to all the questions you guys might have. And in order to start this conversation and, start get the ball rolling, what we need to do is to get about maybe 3 to 4, questions from you, and then start the conversation. So if you have a question, you just post, and I will take that and then I will display it, and you can, see your name and obviously your question. As soon as I have these 3-4 questions, I'll start, basically delivering those, my responses. So I have my notebook here. Any question you might have, I'll give you an idea. If you don't have questions right now, think about if you're interested in becoming a carrier, for example. If you're interested in buying your own trucks, is it the right time to purchase a truck? What about if I don't have an MC number? Like, how am I going to get a load board subscription? So if you are interested in dispatching, you can ask, questions about dispatching. So about 3 to 4 questions. Any question you might have, just type, post, and I will just post them here, and we'll take it from there. Common question. Basically, most of the questions will fall into about like 3 categories. The number 1 category is obviously, where do I start? It could be, where do I start my dispatching business, or where do I start my carrier side of the business, or I want to become a carrier, or I'm a carrier, I want to open this brokerage side of the business, how I can structure it. So that's the first. Think about like a segment of question. The second most important, I think this question, comes all the time when I do like live sessions. This is like, how am I going to get carriers if you are a dispatcher? So if you're a carrier, the most common question is, how am I going to connect with direct shippers? Like, what's the sales process? Like, just think about, remove this word sales. Just think about, what's the process of getting direct shippers? Yes, I do have my brokers, but I want to get direct shippers so I can get contracted rates from the shippers. You might say, like, I want to eliminate the broker, the middleman. You can definitely say that. But a little bit of information for those of you who don't know me. My name is Kamal. I was a carrier. I owned my trucking company. Well, in fact, let me share a couple of images, guys, with you. So I started with auto transport. My company name was Prime Express, and I started moving, all sorts of cars, right? So, and in one day, obviously, we decided to switch gears a little bit and start, hauling general freight. So this is a Cottrell. This is where me and my partner buying our first. Well, actually, we bought our first, trailer, which is Cottrell. This is a Prime Express. So let me share like what I have in terms of like general freight. Then we switched. Now Prime Express hauls general freight. We haul all sorts of loads. So then obviously COVID hit. I switched on just teaching. More specifically, I started teaching how to become independent freight dispatcher. We taught well over 25,000 students all across the globe. And by the way, 99% of those people is just consumed my free content. I was just offering my free training for those people. So 99% of those 25,000 students don't think I'm a millionaire. I'm not. I just help those students. So along the way, obviously, I learned a lot. Now, when COVID hit, obviously we sold our trucks and we started specifically focusing on teaching, and that's what we do. Now, if you have questions about being a carrier, about load boards, and about dispatching, just take it away and ask the question. So I think I do see, let me see, this question by Javier, I think. Let me take this question. How do you know to which partial loads to get in the same time? What at the same time? To a trucker. So basically, the question is, if you're like, I'm assuming you are a freight dispatcher. Am I right, Javed? If you can type, that will be awesome. I think your second question is how to find truckers to be their dispatcher. Oh, I understand now. So you're a dispatcher, you want carriers. Remember at the beginning of this live session, and I said, most common question by dispatchers is how to get carriers. So there are three types, but two main categories. So one is, where do I start? Questions falls into that segment. And then the second is, how do I get carriers? This is the most common question. For carriers, though, the common question is obviously how to get direct shippers. So for dispatchers, how to get carriers. So you are an independent freight dispatchers. Now okay, cool. So why don't I do this? Let me close this. Let me come back and do this. There you go. Let me pull your first question. Guys, we need about like 5 questions. We have 2 questions, okay? So one is, how do you know when you book loads for a carrier, the partial loads, like if you pick a load in Atlanta and you deliver it in Houston, how you manage this so that you can deliver at the same day, right? So maybe this load from Atlanta to Houston delivers in, let's say, in 2 days, and then I have this load from Atlanta that goes to Dallas. How am I managing this? So that's the partial loads get in the same time to a trucker. Trucker meaning basically a carrier. So you're an independent freight dispatcher, as you said. And then your second question, how to find carriers to get to be their dispatcher. So basically, you wanted to get carriers. So let's get the ball rolling. For those of you watching, if you haven't asked a question, please ask your question. I'll take your questions. So I'll share my load board. Why don't I do that? Give me a quick second. Let me pull this, and I will start sharing it with you. Let me see. Let me share my screen. There you go. And then I will share the DAT. There you go. Okay. So you guys see it now. I'll make it, bigger, and we will take it from here. How do you know which partial loads to get in the same time to a carrier? Okay. So trucker, carrier, same thing. Now, let's create a scenario. Let's think about this. Let's say that we have a carrier in Atlanta, Georgia. This carrier is in the flatbed market, flatbed / step deck, same thing, almost same thing. So, and this carrier goes to Houston, Texas. This carrier also in the partial game, since you asked this partial loads. Now, how we get the same time? Same time meaning delivering, or same time, picking up those loads in actually the planning. So this is how it goes if you wanted to plan this route if you are in the partial game. So everything begins with the plan. So this carrier, let's call it Prime Express. This carrier goes to Houston, Texas. What you do, you start searching for partial loads. How many loads you wanted to get for this carrier? Let's say this carrier says don't exceed 45,000. It has to be like, below 45, but ideally I wanted to get like 40,000. But it's okay if you get the maximum I can take. It will be 45,000. So based on that criteria, what you're doing, you're searching. Let's say if you wanted to pull 2, 3, even 4 different type of partial loads, what you do, you start searching those partial loads using the load board. So I have this one is DAT1 select. So let me do this. Let me go there. There you go. This one, DAT1 select. So first thing what I do is I search by zones to see how many loads we have. As you can see, I have a lot of, about 11 plus equipment type. But load type, I put full in partial. There is a reason for this. If you put full, obviously you kind of narrow down your searches. It limits the number of loads. Think about this way: if a broker posts a partial load and it just posts like this is like a full load instead of just putting a partial, it happens a lot of times when you see a load that is 10,000 pounds and maybe 15 feet long, it's a partial load. I consider it's a partial load. And then when you call a broker and said, well, you posted under a load type is full, but this is 10,000 pounds, and probability of this, like the probability of meaning the load is not even a 15 feet long. Maybe it's 10 feet long, maybe less than that. So what I would do is I will call the broker and I'll say, okay, do you really consider this full load or partial load? So if it's a partial load, obviously these people like posting it as if like this is like a partial load, right? So keep that in mind. Don't search. I do see a lot of carriers searching loads like, hey, let me put partial load and search that way. So pay attention. Like we have 22,000 loads. See what happens if I just do partial loads and I'll click search. We have about like 1,380 loads. Do you really think that more than how many? Like 21,000 loads? Let me switch back. Let's do full and partial. So 1,380 and it's 21. Yeah, there you go. Like, do you really think that 21,000 loads being posted here, all of them is, full load? Of course not. You will see loads 10 feet long, 5,000 pounds being posted as the capacity as a full load. So it happens. That's the reason why you need to put, or you should put, full and partial. So coming back to your question, I'll be looking for like by zones. See, this is more specific, right? So this is a step deck, as you can see, in step deck and flatbed, full and partial. And again, I'm not doing, partial. So look at these numbers, okay? So this, 30 feet long, 11,000 pounds. To me, I don't consider this to be a full load, okay? This is not even taking a full capacity of the trailer, but they posted. And think about, this is not even exact numbers, trust me. Sometimes obviously it could be higher, sometimes it could be, less than what they put. Maybe this one could be. The probability of this being like 8,000 pounds is high. So this probability of being like, I don't know, maybe 20 feet long, 25 feet long, it's high. So that they're taking like a maximum capacity, right? So this is a partial load. The first thing what I'll do is I'll just play around. Okay, I'll play with the capacity. So okay, what do I have? Oh, there you go. 19 feet long, 7,000 pounds, almost 8,000. Think about, well, they're posted as a full truckload. So if you're putting this as a full truckload, then you must pay like based on the truckload. So they're paying good. It's for this partial load, I consider it like a partial load. They pay about like $2,000. Let's say it's 17, but hey, we can easily get, 300 more and then make it, 2,000. So if this is a one load that goes from this goes to Texas City. And again, what I have is from Atlanta to Houston. Okay? So then Texas City is about 40 miles away. So it's close. I don't bother, taking this load. Let's consider this as a partial load. So I'll book this load. Okay. I dispatch this load to my driver and I'll say, hey, this is the load. It's from Atlanta, goes to Texas City. Please pick this load up. Okay. So I dispatch this. I talk to a broker. I use my negotiation tactics. I get $300 more. This is 2,000. Okay. 2,000 dispatch, and I'm working on my second load. But look at this. This is like 19 feet long, almost 8,000. When I'm booking loads, I take the full capacity. Full capacity doesn't mean that full trailer, but what I'm, trying to say is that instead of thinking this load is 8,000, I'm thinking like this load could be 10,000, like a worst case scenario type of thing. And if this is a 19, maybe this is about 25 feet long. So let me play safe here until my, driver gets that load, and then I will be looking to another load. So I'm searching for another load. Maybe I do, I don't know, deadhead, maybe 250 mile radius, 200 or something like that, so that I can get more, loads. And then start looking loads for like another partial load. So driver gets there, he sends me the information, says, hey, listen, it's about like 5,000 pounds and it's about 15 feet long. So where are we putting this? Okay, so I got the idea, I moved things around and I said, okay, leave the space on upper deck. So we have, let's say, how many feet left? Let's say it's 20, lower deck, let's say it's 40, 20 feet left on the lower deck. And then we also have upper deck. Just giving an example to kind of make it easy to think. Now we have 20 feet long. Now I'm looking for 20 feet long, and it could be like 10, 15,000. Remember, the capacity is 45. So I'm looking for another partial load. Okay. So that's how it goes. So you need, I think the hardest part here when you're booking partial loads, let me say this, it's hard, but it pays off. Okay. So then I'm looking for another partial load. Okay, so I'll move this close to upper deck. Now I have 20 feet left. Maybe I can pick one load. It's 5 feet long, could be 10,000 pounds, or it could be like 10 feet long, 15,000 pounds, or something like that. Or it could be like 20 feet long, and it is, I don't know, 20,000 pounds. Okay, something like that. Then I will take that load, and I also have 11 feet on my step deck, meaning upper deck. So this planning, this is where it gets really complicated, but finding loads, meaning partial loads, it's not complicated. When you book loads and actually dispatching to a carrier, that's where it gets complicated, because now your driver frustrated because it has to do like multiple pickups and multiple drop-offs. But hey, carrier wants to make money, and this is, if that's the game he wants to play, that's how it played, right? So you need to pick multiple loads and drop off the multiple, and you need to make multiple stops. So when the first load you picked up in, let's say in Atlanta, first load goes from Atlanta to what we have, Texas City. Okay, it's about 40 miles away. Let's say it's like about 50 miles away from Houston. Then second load you're looking at, and again, Atlanta, Georgia, maybe about 150 mile radius or 250 mile radius. And then maybe there's a load popped up, forklift, for example, in Macon, Georgia. Okay, so and that delivers in Houston. So then you put that, like, that first stop is in Houston, so that Houston load must be loaded the So basically, think about like step deck. Well, I think I need to like use some drawing board or something like that. So if this is the lower deck and this is the upper deck, so your Texas City load comes first, closest to the upper deck, then your Houston load that you picked up, let's say forklift from Macon, Georgia, that goes to Houston, it goes to second. Okay, so that's basically how you know kind of planning the load. Okay, hey driver, you will be delivering this load in Houston first, then you need to go, let's say 50 mile and then deliver in Texas City, or vice versa, deliver in Texas City, then go to Houston and deliver it. Some load, maybe you find, let's say, really good load popped up in Savannah, Georgia, right? So now you go to Savannah, Georgia, obviously pick that load, which is last one, right? You pick that load. Maybe this load delivers in, I don't know, in Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana. You deliver that load, right? First, the last load that you picked up, it actually delivers, let's say, first, right? Well, based on the destination. Shreveport, Louisiana comes obviously first, Texas, so on and so forth. So when it comes to delivering, this is what you talking to a broker. Like when I, pick loads and I talk to a broker saying, hey, can I deliver this? Let's say if today is like Tuesday, can I deliver? If the broker wants me to deliver in Thursday, for example, and I said, can I deliver the latest on Friday? So because I'm picking up some loads, so I consider this load as a partial load. So that's how you plan it. Hope that helps. And again, it really, it goes kind of into like in depth. Partial loads, full loads is very easy. This is why most of the carriers want like they want pick and drop the load, right? Pick up. They wanted to make this pickups and drop offs. That's it. That's what they want. I will pick up from point A and I deliver it in point B. That's what I want. So not much money in the full load game. Really, you can make a lot of money as a carrier, and if you're a dispatcher helping your carrier. Partial games is what considered right now in this market is the game, right? Is the strategy right now must be implemented by carriers. So that's the question number one. I think you had a second question, is how to find actually carriers. So let me have this question real quick. For being a dispatcher, I need to know about state of America or no? What, for being a dispatcher, I need to know about states of America or no? What if you can rephrase this question? That will be awesome. I don't really understand. Do you mean like do you have to be in the states? Is that the question? Or do you, for being a dispatcher, do you have to have, let's say, do you is that the question? Like, do I have to know the states? Is that the question? I need to know about states of America. States. Okay. Well, yes. So I'm thinking like this question is more leans towards like, do I have to know the states? Well, yeah, it will help you like dramatically. So yes, it's highly recommended that like imagine, let's say I'm in a different part of the world, in Greece, for example. So if I don't know like capital city of Greece, or I don't know like the states, so yes, you need to know the states. For example, if you're talking to a broker, yes, you can pull Google Map and you can see that, okay, this is a Texas, this is Georgia or California, it's here, this is the West Coast, this is the East Coast. Yes, the short answer is yes, you must know it. Let me take this question. Alexis, this is an awesome question. How do you find carriers if you don't have any? You are an independent freight dispatcher. That tells me that when you said that I'm looking for a carriers, That tells me that you're an independent freight dispatcher. So, well, there are many ways to get carriers, obviously. It all boils down to marketing. Like what type of, marketing strategies like you have implemented to get carriers on board, for example, right? So there are a lot of carriers. It's very fascinating to kind of know this. It's like there are a lot of carriers up here. They're like, hey, I need help, and then there are a lot of dispatchers like, hey, I need carriers, like I'm desperately need carriers. I wanted to dispatch, like I need to make some money by delivering my services to carriers. Like carriers need help and dispatchers need carriers. So what's this missing link here? The missing link here is this is a huge gap. Because you're not doing the marketing. Like maybe you don't know marketing, you don't know sales. Maybe you know sales, you don't know marketing. Maybe you know marketing, but maybe you lack of, let's say, strategies and tactics how to implement. For example, you have social media accounts, but you're not leveraging those social media accounts to get carriers, for example, right? Think about it. If I'm a dispatcher, if I'm running a dispatching agency, meaning independent freight dispatching agency, and my agency called Dispatch Trucks, for example. And this, what I'm doing right now is actually that's what I teach, right? So in order to get carriers, you need to wave your hand, right? You just need to raise your hand saying, hey, I am a dispatcher. So if you are a carrier looking for, let's say, a shipper to connect, you need to raise your hand and say, hey, I am a carrier. I have, 4 trucks, 10 trucks, 15 trucks. I'm looking for shippers to work with. And obviously you're posting, content. By creating content, I think this is by far the easiest way to attract, if you're a dispatcher, carriers. If you're a carrier, attracting shippers. If you're a broker, by the way, this is how you attract shippers. So marketing. So if you really want to know like specific ways of marketing, obviously we can talk about, but then you have 2 ways of doing the marketing. One is basically a free, organic outreach, meaning just leveraging your social media accounts and posting content and raising your hand and saying, hey, I do X, Y, and Z, and I can help, so that people, your ideal clients, can see it. And then the other way is obviously doing by leveraging social media, meaning running Facebook ads. This is where you kind of scaling the business. So hope guys this helps. I also had a Javier asked this question, how to find, yeah, there you go. Javier, is that helpful? So I think when I was answering Alexa's question, how to get carriers is exactly the same thing. It applies to as well. Well, applies to any business. I think that marketing is the missing link here. Think about carriers, why they can't find good loads, because they build, or they're building their businesses around this load matching platform that we call, let's say, load boards. So we carriers buy trucks, trailers, the equipment that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we build our businesses around this platform called load boards. So we're not thinking about getting shippers on board, although we're aware of this problem that we need to get directly connected with with the shippers as a carrier, right? You have your own MC, you have your DOT and whatnot, so you're ready to go. The only thing is missing is basically doing the marketing and doing the cold calling, getting shippers on board. When you don't do this, brokers comes in and obviously creates a gap, right? So somebody must fill in this gap, and we need somebody in the middle. That's the name comes from, right? The middleman. So then broker comes in and says, hey, shipper, I know I have army of carriers, and I can help with the logistic aspect of your business. So I can take that away from you, and I will help you move your load smoothly. That's the basically sales process behind when brokers calling shippers. The only difference between a broker and you when it comes to getting a shipper is basically their executing it, meaning they're calling these shippers, negotiating rates, and they're getting the quotes from a shipper and get those shippers on board. Now they use that as a validation of the business and turns back to the carrier and says, hey, listen, I have a lot of loads that I work with these shippers, and this is how they connect shippers to carriers. And obviously they have their cuts. If you don't like to work with the broker, what's stopping you? What's stopping you? Just think about it. If you're a carrier watching right now, you know that you have a lot of shippers in your area. Let's say if you're from Texas and you are in the flatbed market, man, hundreds of thousands of shippers around you, distribution centers. United States is huge, right? There are a lot of businesses out there. And what's the reason not doing it actually and living up to the these cold calling, the marketing to a broker? And broker does this for you, right? So does the marketing and everything, like sales calls and whatnot. They build an army of people to get shippers on board, and you're not doing it. And since you're not doing this, and these people doing the marketing and sales and everything, now you depend on them, right? So I think the carriers, this is a time when they need to know how to get shippers on board. And hey, I don't know how to get these shippers on board. I don't know how to talk to them. See, I don't know how to create, let's say, a quote. I don't know how to do a calculation. How am I going to calculate this, quote? How am I getting these shippers on board? What am I saying? What should I say? What would be the script? Should I use a script or not? There are a lot of questions. Obviously, that basically tells you that you need information. You need to learn how these brokers calculating the quote and how they're talking to shippers. I have a lot of brokers, on social media that I follow and just see what they're doing, and they do cold calling, talking to shippers. I'm like, why carriers not doing this, right? So let me take this, Alexis. I think you said you lost, and I don't want you to be lost. I'm lost in terminology. Are you saying the carriers are the same as dispatchers? No. So in trucking, we have what I call main player. The player number one is a shipper. So these people, think about in a very simple way of explaining this, the people make stuff, right? So these people have freight. These people have loads because they make stuff, right? Think anything that you can think of, like cars, like furniture, anything. So these shippers, they busy on making stuff. So just keep that in mind. That's the player number one. Then player number two, the second important player, is the carrier. Carrier is the think about it, is a company owns trucks and trailer. So then we have the third important, I would say, player in the game is the broker. It's a freight broker. And I'll, tell the difference, okay? And we have freight dispatchers. So shippers, we have carriers, we have brokers, and we have independent freight dispatchers. So shippers, actually, how this game is played, shippers if they make stuff, they have customers, right? They're selling to their customers. Let's say we have a shipper in Atlanta, Georgia. They make, computer tables, and they must ship it to Houston, Texas. One of their customers in Houston, Texas. They don't need any middleman in between, like shippers and carriers. Shippers need carriers, like trucking companies. Why? Because trucking companies, they have trucks and trailers. Actually, these people actually transport the load, right? The freight, the computer tables. So you talk to a shipper saying, hey, I have trucks, in a simple way explaining this. So then if you don't do that, then the middleman comes in, like between shipper and a carrier, the middleman called freight broker. So freight broker says to a shipper like, hey, do whatever what you're doing, focus on what you're doing, let me handle the logistics for you. Like, let me take off of your shoulders, let me do it for you. Just focus on making stuff and selling stuff, grow your business, right? Why? Because I have carriers. Now, what they're doing is they're doing the marketing and sales, attracting these two customers, and they're just connecting, right? They're connecting this, carriers to a shippers, but all the transactions goes between this broker or brokers. Okay. So then freight dispatchers, these are the people working for a carrier. Okay. So carriers, they also can dispatch. When I was a carrier back in the days, I was dispatching my own trucks. I was a dispatcher, but at the same time, I was a carrier, like owning my own trucks. But I also had, let's say, independent freight dispatchers and in-house dispatchers when we started getting owner-operators on board. So owner-operators, people who own the truck and trailer, but they drive themselves, right? So I considered myself a carrier, although technically they are carriers as well because they have this motor carrier number, which is MC number, right? Commonly known as MC number and DOT number. So they have the authority to move loads in the United States. Think about it that way. But the only difference, so that you can understand, to simplify this and make it easy to understand, these people own truck and trailer, but they drive. They drive. They're operating. That's the owner operator. They own the truck, but they operate their trucks. Carriers, they have two or more trucks. So I'm dispatching my own trucks. I have drivers. They're driving. Dispatchers helping me find loads for my trucks at the same time for owner operators. So we had back then about 25 owner operators and 4 of my trucks. That's how we operated. So I had 2 businesses. One is my trucking company. The other one is the dispatching company, right? So dispatching company, this is where we need dispatchers working remotely, in office, independently. That's the dispatcher. So carriers are trucking companies. Dispatchers, these are the people, think about back office. They're working for this segment of carriers, meaning for customers. So these are the carriers. Freight dispatchers working for carriers. Freight dispatchers can't connect shippers and carriers. Why? Because it's illegal. And the reason why it's illegal, because dispatchers, they don't have no MC number. If they need to do that, they need to have broker MC so that they can become a broker. Okay? So let me take this. Alexis, is that helpful? Is that clear? We're good? So what type of a truck do you think is the best to start being a dispatcher? What type of a truck? Javier, is that the question for what type of a market? For example, we have a flatbed market, we have car hauling market, we have a reefer, temperature controlled, van market, whatever. To me, obviously, first thing first, if you don't know how to dispatch, then you need to learn how to dispatch. Okay? So a lot of people get confused, they get excited, they watch a couple of videos online, they're like, oh wow, I can do this. This is an awesome opportunity. But then they realize that, hey, there's a skill aspect of this, and then there's a business aspect of this. Let me remove this so that we can talk. There you go. So there's this aspect, which is, acquiring this skill, knowing how to dispatch, and then obviously how to, start their businesses, meaning the business aspect. Some people watch YouTube videos and somebody told them that, hey, there's an independent freight dispatching opportunity out there. It's very easy or something like that. Hey, if somebody says it's very easy, just run away from them. Dispatching is not easy. Being a carrier is not easy. In fact, it's hard, right? You think being a broker, it's easy. It's hard. It's very, very hard because brokers have hard time to get shippers on board. It's very, very complicated process. And I think that's one of the reasons why carriers don't go into this complicated process of getting shippers on board. Okay? Meaning getting contracted rates. So being a carrier, man, it's you know what I can say when it comes to being a carrier, because I was a carrier, it's brutally competitive and it's capital intensive business. Just remember that. It's very, very, very hard. And when it comes to dispatching, man, you're dispatching these guys, which is just said that hey, it's not easy. It's brutally competitive, capital intensive business. It's hard. It's hard to manage this type of customers because they're always frustrated. They run into problems. Well, at the end, it's rewarding, and at the end, this is business. If you're not, business oriented person, if you're like, hey, I rather prefer working for a carrier rather than creating my own business, I think that's the best way of doing it, right? If you're not ready and if you're like, hey, I can take it easy, why? Because it's a business. Any business out there, I've been in multiple businesses, I failed a lot of businesses, and I can tell it's very, very hard. And you will fail. Well, I'm using like tough language, which is, well, it is. Like if you never done a business, probability of failing your business, it's very, very high. Same thing with the dispatching. So what type of a carrier? So first thing first is you need to know dispatching first. Get this skill, know ins and outs of this. Being a dispatcher, know load board ins and outs of a load board, finding a load, booking load, dispatching loads, negotiating tactics, and everything. Now, when you have that, then you can move on to the next stage, which is starting your business. Some people, as I said, watch a couple of videos and then, hey, it's very easy to do this. They watch a couple of videos and then, oh, wow, awesome. Let me create my logo. Let me create my website. Let me get my LLC. These are very, very easy to do it. Your logo, man, we have AI. You can create within a couple of seconds, right? We're not even talking about minutes. Your website, well, you can go to a Fiverr, pay somebody $50, and you have up and running website right next day. It's easy. And if you're living in the state of Georgia, you pay about 100, 150 or something like that. It might change. I don't know. You just go to your Secretary of State, you create your LLC within minutes. You pay the fee. Now you have a business. Really? See, the process is, because it's very hard process is waiting for you, we just take on easy steps. Well, I do have a community of people, by the way, where we do every Monday like Q&A sessions, and then we also have a premium, level of community. And in the community, one of our members asked a question and said, right after this call, I want to go and create my LLC. And I said, don't do that. Why? Because I see that you lack of experience. You don't know like this aspect of the business, right? So meaning you don't know the skill. Like you need to know the skill first. How you're going, like, okay, you're thinking about creating your logo today. You're thinking about creating your website tomorrow and getting your LLC today or tomorrow or within a week or something like that. So let's assume that you got it. Now what? Like you don't know anything about dispatching, right? You don't know how to get load boards. Then you have this, and now you don't know how to get a load board subscription. Now you don't have an MC. Now you don't have a DOT. Now it's very tough to get the load board. Oh, now you realize that DAT exclusively required you to have carrier and the business in the United States with the physical address so that they can give you the subscription. Now you're like, I don't have a carrier. How am I going to get load boards or load board access? Well, we can't. Now you realize that, oh, wow, I made a mistake. I created my LLC. I have my website. What should I need to do now? So if you have the website, think about now you need to drive traffic to your website so people can see it. So if you're not willing to spend some money on marketing, or not even, I'm not talking about like, let's not talking about okay paid advertising. Think about free marketing, creating content so that people can see it. It could be a dispatcher, it could be a carrier, it doesn't matter. But then the rules apply to dispatchers, to brokers, and to carriers. Like, you need to do marketing. You need to drive traffic. Like, you need to send people to the website. If nobody sees your website, who cares? Like, you basically, like, clearly, like, you don't exist for them, right? Your business doesn't exist because nobody sees it. Your website, it's like somewhere buried out in somewhere in the internet. It's like another website along with billion of websites on the internet right now. Right? It's huge, it's complex, it's lost. Nobody can find your website. They don't even know the company, the name of the domain or something like that. Who knew when I bought the dispatchtruck.com or dispatchtrucks.com? Nobody knew it. But when I started advertising, promoting it, helping people, creating content around this, now people know that, hey, there is a company, teach people how to become carriers, independent freight dispatchers, teach how to use load boards. They have community of people, whatnot, and they go to www.dispatchtrucks.com or something like that. So hope that helps. So coming back to your question, the best is, in my opinion, is a flatbed. Okay, it's kind of, there is a labor intensive, like it's a labor intensive compared to drive-in, but it can make money as a dispatcher, as a carrier in the flatbed market. Hope that helps. Okay, so David says, how do you prevent from booking loads by fraudulent parties? Meaning double brokering. One example, there could be a lot of fraudulent activities maybe going on, but hey, rate confirmation. You need to pay attention to, like, if you book a load from TQL and you look at the rate confirmation and it says something else, then now it's fraudulent, right? So you need to call the broker and obviously do a little bit of research about, like, hey, what is this, right? So your company, if you're a carrier, your company must be on that rate confirmation. Okay, your information should be there. So if you're pulling this load off of a load board and you saw that, let's say, ABC brokerage company posted, check first when you're booking loads, look at the credit score for the brokers. DAT gives that data so that you can see that, okay, can I work with this broker, right? The chances are, if you have, like, broker posted this load, credit score is 90 and above, the probability of, like, getting good loads is high. So if you see some sketchy things, like they don't have any credit score, maybe they're fairly new, personally, I don't book those loads from these people if they don't have a credit score yet. Okay, so that's one thing. And again, the rate confirmation basically tells all the story. Like, if you don't have a rate confirmation, you don't have anything. So if you have a rate confirmation, pay attention. So if this picks up in this, okay, that's the shipper. Okay, that's the broker that I booked from, and that's the email address, that's the phone number. Okay, and then carrier, it's me. Then yeah. And then also, if you have a, what is it, the factoring company, also you can check with factoring company, kind of double make sure that it's a legit brokerage company. So Alexis says yes. It's awesome. So guys, I have something to share with you. Let me stop sharing this and let me go up here and then share it with you. So I know you guys have a lot of questions. So this is what I have. Let me make it this bigger so you can see it. There you go. So I have community of people. So this is where you can ask whatever the questions you might have. As you can see, it's a live session on YouTube. By the way, we have the calendar, and we have, as I said, it's Monday. We have a coffee hour where we get gather together, and then people ask, the members of the community ask questions. It's between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern time. So every week on Monday. And we also have, these YouTube, live sessions. And then we'll also have the classroom. So in the classroom, I have everything from A to Z when it comes to teaching. This is my coaching program. It's here. And this is the community aspect where you basically come up here and then ask the question saying, hey, I have, let's say, let me do this, load board. All right, so load board question. And then you come up here and then say, how to, let's say, how to get access, for example. And then you just put a question mark, select the category like questions, and post. So what will happen is that my moderators and myself here and it taking questions. Let me show you. And there you go. We make posts, and then we obviously do some special invitations. Hey, there's a YouTube live, coming. Hey, there is like a coffee hour coming, and people asking questions about the quizzes, cargo van, different types of questions, right? So this is a community of people. We have carriers here. We have about how many? We have about 269 people here. So if you want to join, the link will be below this video. Guys, hope you guys like this. And if you want to join, as I said, link will be down below. Thank you so much. Great questions. I'll see you next week. Stay blessed.